Thank you for, being here and engaging. It helps me when I come to conferences like this and get a chance to see people from other countries. So I'm obviously, I've been around a while. It's pretty obvious from that point of view. I've spent more than 40 years in human resources. And my background, though, is started out as engineering. So I have an engineering degree, and then I have several graduate degrees in organizational behavior and human resources. And I went to work for one of the largest companies in this country. I was very fortunate to go to work for Johnson & Johnson. The Band-Aids and all of that sort of things. I worked in operations, I worked in human resources.
All in Johnson & Johnson?
All in Johnson & Johnson for about 10 years. And bounced around to some very interesting jobs, but really all of the time that I've spent in my adult life has been in some way shaped different parts of recruiting. So in the early 90s, I became fascinated by how the internet was going to impact what was going on. And in 96, I wrote a book called Career Crossroads that was about the emerging technologies and how they would impact recruiting. And it was popular, and so I wrote another book the next year, and they bought that too. Sold many hundreds of thousands of copies, actually. So I brought together 20, 25 people that I knew, all in large companies, so companies like Microsoft and Amazon and J.P. Morgan, Chase, and Walmart. I decided I'm getting older, and I don't have patience anymore for people who have too much of an ego. So if they like to talk but can't listen, I told them they can't come. And I didn't want their money.
So it wasn't about their position in the company, it was more about what they brought to the table?
No, as a matter of fact, some of the people who were in the highest positions, if they were too politically engaged and not looking down and involved at the trench level, because I questioned them more about what do your people do, and if they didn't know, I don't want them. Because I wanted to have a environment where people could talk to each other about what really is being done, what they're really measuring. So I needed people who shared, and some companies would not share. In 2002, when I started this, IBM, Procter & Gamble, and several other companies, Microsoft was one as well, would not share. They said, I want to come to your meeting, but I want to listen. I do not want to give. I said, you can't come. We also decided no vendors, no suppliers, no consultants. Because what I wanted people to share was what really goes on. If a consultant was helping them, I want them to share how good that consultant really is. If they have a tool like a Taleo or whatever, I want to know what works, what doesn't work. Because there's other people who have to work with them next, right? So my goal was that people openly were able to bench with each other, and that would promise that if somebody from our group were to call, they would answer the phone. They would answer the question.
So it's guaranteed networking.
Guaranteed networking. I guaranteed that they would answer the phone, otherwise they can't come again. So I really believe that when you enter an era in which change is happening literally every day, there is no way that you can go to a book, because by the time the book is written, it's already over. We're already on to the next thing. And you need to see what other people are doing in a given area. If it's branding, if it's metrics, if it's sourcing, if it's executive, if it's college.
Right. To hear it from one another.
Each of these are different areas where people need to hear from each other about what they're doing right now, what they're struggling with right now. We're doing 7, 8 of those meetings in a year. No more than 40 people.
40
ever.
People?
No more. I allow 2 people from any one company, so 1 or 2. No more than 2. All of these are very big name brand companies. So when I look at the 80 companies that participate in my colloquium, and it kind of means peer-to-peer discussion.
Okay.
So peer-to-peer discussion. Those 80 companies hire 3 million people a year. So the leaders of them, and they may be at the top, but they probably are in between, but all of them are passionate. If they're not passionate, they can't come. They have to be compelled to want to get better. So when you get 40 people who are all interested in getting better, they have lots of questions to ask each other.
So that's the purpose of the group?
That's the purpose of the group.
Getting the recruiting processes to be better?
Yes, absolutely, is to leverage their interest in improving and continuing to develop new ways that we can do this. Now, I will tell you that obviously from a process point of view, when people are starting to meet each other, it helps if you have methods to help break that down. So I write scenarios, strange things, like what would happen if you couldn't travel at all? How would you get people hired? How would you engage those folks? So
you bring the scenario to the session?
I bring the scenario to the session, I break them into teams, and I force them to compete to come up with better solutions.
Wow.
And in doing that, they then share what they're doing. Most people are used to going to a conference now. They sit there and they're doing 5 things. They've got their computer on, they have their smartphone on, and they're talking to people around them, and they're listening to whatever. In my sessions, you have to have full attention. You have to be present.